President Trump's nominee to be commander of U.S. Strategic Command, Vice Admiral Richard Correll. He served as deputy commander during the Biden administration. You're watching live coverage on C-SPAN 3.
And to be the commander of the United States Strategic Command. Admiral Correll is here with his wife, Samantha. Thank you both for being here today. Vice Admiral Correll is a career submariner. Throughout his illustrious career, Admiral Correll has led many different commands and organizations. Their success during and after his time with them is a testament to his leadership. Since 2022, Vice Admiral Correll has served as the Deputy Commander of STRATCOM. If confirmed, his leadership, knowledge, and direct command experience will be invaluable to the men and women who serve at STRATCOM, and to the Secretary, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Commander-in-Chief. And STRATCOM will continue to need great leadership in the next several years. The United States faces two adversarial nuclear powers in Russia and China. It is STRATCOM's responsibility to ensure they remain deterred and never believe they can attack the United States or our allies and not risk their own annihilation. Russia is concluding a significant modernization effort of its nuclear forces. Russia now wields modern, diverse, and capable nuclear forces, and they continue to test novel weapons, including their new Skyfall missile earlier this week. They have long held an advantage in tactical nuclear weapons. China is also modernizing its nuclear forces, but with far less transparency. They have improved their launchers, missiles, and warheads by simultaneously ramping up warhead production to potentially triple their stockpile by 2035. And they are moving breathtakingly fast. For our own forces, every day our sailors and airmen operate the missiles, submarines, and aircraft that carry nuclear weapons, continuously deterring any would-be aggressor. But they will not last forever. The Minuteman III ICBMs, representing the land-based leg of the triad, has been in operation for 60 years. Each year, the average age of our Ohio-class submarines, which provide the most survivable leg of the nuclear triad, gets closer to 40. And although it is a testament to the brave men and women serving that we have been able to maintain and modernize our fleet of bombers over the decades, they are also aging and must be replaced with newer and stealthier aircraft to remain relevant and lethal in the years to come. The Sentinel ICBM system, Columbia-class submarines, and the B-21 bombers are all progressing, but we see too many delays. While it is up to each of the services to properly sustain their legacy systems while fielding the new capabilities, it is the responsibility of the commander of U.S. Strategic Command to mitigate any risks caused by those delays, always ensuring our nuclear forces never experience a lapse in their 24/7 mission. The STRATCOM commander also has the responsibility to provide the President a broad array of options and to prevent gaps in our deterrence posture. One gap identified by the 2018 Nuclear Posture Review is an adversary's potential use of a tactical nuclear weapon based on a belief that the U.S. does not have an adequate response to such a strike and therefore would not or could not respond, the theory known as escalate to de-escalate. Our adversaries must always know that the U.S. will have a response. I look forward to hearing Admiral Correll's thoughts on options to address these capability gaps during this hearing. I also look forward to hearing Admiral Correll's thoughts and recommendations with respect to the command, control, and communication of our nuclear forces, or NC3, what Senator King and I refer to as the fourth leg of the triad. NC3 underpins all aspects of nuclear deterrence and is vital to ensuring our nuclear deterrent remains effective and reliable. The current STRATCOM commander, General Cotton, developed an NC3 roadmap to lay out the path ahead for NC3 technology development, and the next STRATCOM commander will need to continue these efforts. So again, I say thank you to Admiral Correll and to his family for their years of service to our country and for being here today. We are truly grateful to have such a uniquely suited individual sitting before us today. With that, I would ask unanimous consent to enter Senator Wicker's opening statement into the record. With no objection, so moved. Senator Reid, you are recognized for your opening.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and good morning, Admiral Correll, and congratulations on your nomination. I'd like to welcome you and your wife, Samantha, to the hearing today, and thank you both for the long career of service to the nation. Thank you. Admiral, you are nominated to be a commander of U.S. Strategic Command, or STRATCOM. If confirmed, you would be the principal advisor to the President for all nuclear deterrence missions during an incredibly challenging period of time. Today, Russia is modernizing all three legs of its nuclear triad while developing asymmetric weapons, from counter-space capabilities to long-range nuclear torpedoes and nuclear-powered cruise missiles. Meanwhile, China has built a complete nuclear triad, constructed 3 new missile fields, and deployed hypersonic systems capable of unpredictable attack trajectories. These capabilities are designed to challenge and deter our presence in the Indo-Pacific. For the first time in history, we face 2 near-peer nuclear-armed competitors simultaneously. Admiral, I would like to know your views on whether our current strategy and capabilities can meet this challenge, and how you will ensure STRATCOM is equipped to do so. Equally important is our own nuclear modernization. After decades of deferment, we are currently modernizing all 3 triad legs, our nuclear command and control systems, and our warhead production at the National Nuclear Security Administration, all the while rebuilding their Manhattan Project-era infrastructure. These modernization, construction, and refurbishment activities are limited both by their enormous cost and the scale of execution. For example, the lead ship of our Columbia-class ballistic missile submarine program, which will replace our current Ohio-class fleet, is more than a year behind schedule. We need more than 100 B-21 bombers to replace our fleet of B-52s, which were last built in 1962. And our decades-old arsenal of Minuteman ICBMs must be replaced, though the Sentinel program faces major cost overruns. Admiral, given these simultaneously challenges, I'd like to know how you would propose to safely extend the service life of systems already well past their intended lifetimes. Finally, these systems, if called to use, depend on people interacting with complex hardware under extreme stress, and extreme stress is probably an understatement. To address this, the FY22 NDAA requires high-level exercises under these stressful scenarios and a review of nuclear weapon safety and security. Admiral, I would ask for your commitment to continue realistic exercises and to personally review the classified safety and security reports. Thank you again, Admiral, for your distinguished service to the nation, and I look forward to your testimony. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Reid. Welcome, Admiral. We are ready for your opening statement, please.
Good morning, Senator Fisher, Ranking Member Reid, and distinguished members of the committee. It's truly an honor to appear before you today as a nominee to be the next Commander of U.S. Strategic Command. I'm very grateful to President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, and our Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for their trust and confidence in me for this nomination. I would like to recognize the current Commander of U.S. Strategic Command, General Anthony Cotton, and his wife, Marcia, for their 40 years of selfless service to our great nation, and publicly express my personal gratitude to General Cotton for his mentorship to me over the past 3 years as I've served as his Deputy Commander. Joining me today is my wife, Samantha, my best friend and life partner for over 34 years. Service is in her DNA. Born and raised in Bremerton, Washington, home to one of our Navy's largest and most capable shipyards, her grandfather, grandmother, father, brother, and multiple relatives all worked in the Bremerton shipyard, repairing and maintaining our Navy's frontline combatants for generations, a tradition that continues today. A University of Maryland graduate and former accountant, Samantha is a remarkable advocate for our military men and women and their families. She's an incredible source of strength and inspiration for me and for our family. Not with us today, but always in our hearts and minds are our 3 children, Michaela, Ryan, and Sydney, who after completing college are pursuing their passions. We're very proud of our children for the paths that they have taken. I'd be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank my father, who also served our nation as a submarine sailor, retiring as a Navy Chief Yeoman after 22 years of service. A few years back, I had the privilege of scattering his ashes at sea, per his wishes, from the bridge of the Virginia-class submarine USS North Carolina off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia. I know he's looking down with great pride on these proceedings. My mom, Patricia, who is soon to be 88, is watching us from her home in Mishawaka, Indiana. Growing up, she was the center of gravity for me, my brother, and my sister, instilling in each of us the value of hard work and service above self. She is the hardest working and most generous human being I've ever met and continues to inspire me. Lastly, I want to thank the men and women of U.S. Strategic Command for their continued professionalism and dedication. Their mission focus remains essential to our nation's security. We face the most complex and dynamic security environment in my lifetime, and it is both our conventional and nuclear capabilities, along with crucial support from our allies and partners, that underpins our strategic deterrence. Our nation's nuclear force continues to be safe, secure, effective, and credible. As we bring the B-21 Raider bomber aircraft, the Columbia-class ballistic missile submarine, the Sentinel intercontinental ballistic missile weapon system, the long-range standoff weapon, and the sea-launched cruise missile nuclear, or SLICM-N, online, we will continue to ensure the credibility of deterrence for decades to come. Underpinning all of this is our nuclear command and control and communication system, often referred to as NC3. While the current system is secure and resilient, modernization and sustainment of this capability is just important as the weapon systems and platforms themselves. If confirmed, I will use my authorities to ensure the NC3 systems to continue to outpace the threat. The mission of U.S. Strategic Command is to deter our adversaries and employ force, to guarantee the security of our nation and our allies. If confirmed, I will work with relevant agencies across the U.S. government within the department, collaborate closely with civilian leaders, and directly with my fellow combatant commanders as we monitor the global threats and execute operations in accordance with the National Defense Strategy. I commit to commanding a resilient joint force capable of conducting multi-domain operations focused on deterring aggression and, if necessary, defending our nation. I look forward to working with Congress and the members of this committee to address the strategic challenges of our great nation. Senator Fisher, Ranking Member Reed, distinguished members of this committee, it's an honor to sit before you today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Admiral. To exercise its legislative and oversight responsibilities, it is important that this committee and other appropriate committees of the Congress be able to receive testimony, briefings, and other communications of information. So at this time, Admiral, I would ask you some standard questions that we give to all of our military nominees, and a yes or no answer is appropriate. Have you adhered to applicable laws and regulations governing the conflicts of interest?
Yes, Senator.
Do you agree, when asked, to give your personal views, even if those views differ from the administration in power?
Yes, I do.
Have you assumed any duties or undertaken any actions which would appear to presume the outcome of the confirmation process?
No, Senator.
Will you ensure your staff complies with deadlines established for requested communications, including questions for the record in hearings?
Yes, I will.
Will you cooperate in providing witnesses and briefers in response to congressional requests?
Yes, I will.
Will those witnesses be protected from reprisal for their testimony or briefings?
Yes, Senator.
Do you agree, if confirmed, to appear and testify upon request before this committee?
Yes.
Do you agree to provide documents, including copies of electronic forms of communication in a timely manner when requested by the duly constituted committee, or to consult with the committee regarding the basis for any good faith delay or denial in providing such documents?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you very much. I will begin questions. We'll have a 5-minute round. Admiral, I appreciated our discussion earlier this week on NC3 modernization, and I appreciate your comments in your opening statement on that. We all know that if the President is unable to command, control, or communicate with nuclear forces in any circumstance, then we've lost our deterrence. Modernizing this fourth leg of the triad is just as important, if not more so, than the other 3 legs of our triad. If confirmed, will you also be the department's NC3 enterprise lead? And can you speak to the importance of modernizing our NC3 systems, including missile warning and missile tracking systems and the new SAOC aircraft?
Yes, Senator, I can speak to that. And thank you for the time in your office. I really appreciated the conversation. With respect to NC3, first off, I'd like to agree with the statement that you made. It's every bit as important. It's you can think of it as the fourth leg of our triad. We have to have assured command and control 24/7, 365. 4 broad threats that have to be addressed. They are addressed today and need to continue to be addressed going forward. Those are cyber, contested U.S. space, and by that I mean the ability of China or Russia to attack our space capabilities and degrade what we deliver from space. Very important for command and control. We have an increasingly contested electromagnetic spectrum environment, and we have a variety of novel missile systems that challenge our threat detection and missile defense capabilities. We need to address all 4 of those with the architecture going forward. We have a roadmap that we're executing along those lines in partnership with Secretary Duffy at A&S within the department and his team. The attributes that we will continue to provide with that command and control are resilient, diversity of waveforms, diversity of platforms, and mobility, so that we address all 4 of those threats.
You're also going to have to work collaboratively with services, industry partners, and also our labs. Do you have any ideas in a short amount of time here to on how you can improve on that? I know that in the past there's been a good relationship, but what do you see as possible improvements?
General Cotton will often use the term by, with, and through the services, and I couldn't agree more. We have a very strong partnership with both the Navy and the Air Force providing approximately 2/3 of our nuclear command and control systems, and the Navy the other 1/3. We'll continue to work very closely in partnership with them. Our lead for the NC3 Enterprise Center, or the NEC, is a senior executive named Amanda Cato with deep, deep experience in NC3 as an acquisition professional in the Air Force. She continues to work very closely with the services to deliver future capabilities to provide that assured command and control.
Thank you. The current programs of record for our nuclear forces, those were decided and set up back in 2010. Obviously, the geopolitical landscape has changed tremendously since that time. First time we have 2 peer competitors and adversaries. So given the new threats that we face, does it make sense for us to maintain that planned force posture or to reassess some of those underlying assumptions and to look at future threats that we have there. And I guess that's a roundabout way of asking you about the 145 B-21 bombers.
Thank you, Senator. If confirmed as the STRATCOM commander, I have a responsibility to continue to evaluate the threat environment. We talked a little bit, you talked in your opening statement, and Senator Reid as well, about the two near-peer nuclear threats. The security environment is the most dynamic and complex in my lifetime. We continue to look at that closely and provide best military advice in terms of options that we can use for policymakers to consider that could provide more capability or capacity with respect to the nuclear deterrent.
Thank you. I also appreciated your comments on SLCM and the importance of keeping that for an option going in the future. Thank you very much. Senator Reid, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Admiral, last evening President Trump said, and I quote, "Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately." It's not exactly clear what he means by testing nuclear weapons, but I take it at face value means nuclear explosive testing. And I'd like to note some facts. Between 1945 and 1992, the U.S. conducted 1,054 tests above and below ground, and even in space, in which 928 were in Nevada. Russia conducted 715, China conducted 45. However, emerging nuclear nations like Pakistan have conducted 6, India 4, and North Korea 6, all of which were underground. Like Russia and China, we have sophisticated modeling codes based on this test data. Further, we are spending many tens of billions of dollars building new plutonium pit production capabilities at Los Alamos and the Savannah River site, and we conduct specialized plutonium pit tests underground in Nevada for verification. Finally, every 2 years, the 3 directors of our nuclear weapons labs and STRATCOM produce a classified report to certify our nuclear stockpile, the last one being signed out by President Trump in January. In your military judgment, do you believe the resumption of nuclear explosive testing by the U.S. and very likely by Russia and China would open the door for Pakistan, India, and North Korea to start nuclear testing again? And would that be destabilizing for nuclear deterrence?
Senator, thank you for the question. If confirmed as the commander of STRATCOM, my role will be to provide military advice on any discussions on the way ahead with respect to testing. And you have my assurance that I will do that to the best of my ability, together with a team of subject matter experts, to provide this committee and policymakers the best informed analysis from a military perspective on any adjustments to our testing. The nation our nation did sign and ratify the Limited Test Ban Treaty of 1963, which prohibits atmospheric, underwater, and outer space testing. That was signed by the U.S., the Soviet Union at the time, and the U.K.
But not by China.
Not by China.
It appears that the most obvious and perhaps the only rational reason to conduct explosive testing is if you certify, along with the directors of our nuclear labs, that you cannot ensure the safety of nuclear stockpile. You just did that in January, correct?
That's correct, Senator.
Do you have any additional information from January that would suggest that that certification is no longer accurate?
That, as you highlighted, Senator, that certification occurs on an annual basis. The STRATCOM commander's role in that is to provide subject matter expertise from the operational military perspective of the stewardship profile. Administrator, National Nuclear Security Administration, administrator also provides their subject matter expertise in each of the national lab directors. That occurs on an annual basis and is ongoing. And as you indicated, that was most recently certified in January of this year. And I would expect that process to continue going forward.
Thank you. Just very quickly, the issue of fail-safe, which was quite a front-page story in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, is getting renewed attention. And one of the things that we did, and I mentioned in my opening remarks, we require that very high-level DoD personnel participate on a regular basis in exercises in which they have to confront the possibility of a pending nuclear strike and our response. And in addition, it also mandates that we review the safety, security, and reliability of our arsenal, that there is no deficiencies that would cause a unintended launch. Are you confident that we're in a great fail-safe position now, if that's an appropriate term?
Senator, I am absolutely confident we're in a good position.
And just quickly, what about China and Russia? Do you have any concerns, or Pakistan or North Korea, which is a much less robust, I believe, fail-safe?
It's not a matter of subject matter expertise for me in the STRATCOM commander. I do pay very close attention to the intel associated with that, and would be happy to work with the subject matter experts to arrange a classified briefing for you or the other committee members.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Reid. Senator Cotton, you are recognized.
Admiral Correll, welcome and congratulations on your nomination, and thank you and your wife for your decades of service to our nation. I thought nuclear testing might be a hot topic of discussion this morning. I'll put aside the obvious benefits of such testing to ensure the stockpile is fully prepared and ready for any contingency, but in general, tests of all kinds, whether nuclear or conventional, don't just provide those benefits, but also can send a strong message of resolve and deterrence. We saw the exact opposite effect at times during the last administration when President Biden canceled routine tests of our Minuteman III missiles to avoid supposedly escalating tensions with China or Russia. Could you speak to me in your best military advice about the impact of a successful weapons test, whether nuclear or conventional, on our adversaries and maintaining that regular testing schedule?
That regular testing schedule, thank you for the question, Senator. If confirmed, the STRATCOM commander is responsible for the requirements associated with accuracy and effectiveness of the weapons. And that then drives the services and other subject matter experts' analysis of the testing required to meet those objectives. So I agree fully with you. It is a really, really important aspect of demonstrating the reliability and credibility of our nuclear deterrent, and that's an essential attribute for deterrence versus particularly in this era.
Thank you. Critics of our nuclear arsenal often claim that it costs too much and we never use them. I like to rejoin that we use our nuclear weapons every single day, and we have for 80 years. Although we have not detonated a nuclear weapon in combat for 80 years, the very existence of them and at their high state of readiness every single day for 80 years has deterred the kind of major conflict we saw twice in less than 20 years in the 20th century. Do you agree with me? Admiral, on the absolute necessity of both maintaining and modernizing our arsenal to preserve this deterrent effect?
I agree, Senator.
Thank you. Do you also agree with me, given this remarkable run of 80 years without a general global war, after having 2 of them in 20 years, that we don't actually spend all that much money on our nuclear forces?
I agree with you, Senator, and I would echo and foot stomp your point with respect to our nation's deterrent gets exercised every single day, and the credibility associated with that prevents war.
And I think I'm right, just ballparking it, that we spend about 5% of our total military budget all in on our nuclear arsenal, maybe a little more at the height of modernization, maybe a little less outside of it. Is that a fair estimate?
That's a fair estimate, Senator.
Do you think 5% plus or minus a little bit is a reasonable expenditure to avoid global world war?
I agree, Senator.
I agree too. Another thing that's remarkable, if you look over the last 80 years, is that there aren't more nuclear states, especially nuclear states in regions that have deep tensions and where nations are often at daggers drawn. Do you believe that our nuclear arsenal and the extended deterrent that we provide to our allies has contributed to the relative lack of nuclear proliferation since 1945?
I agree, and I would say it's an essential element of our nuclear proliferation strategy, those partnerships.
Yeah, our nuclear weapons and modernizing our nuclear weapons are an essential element of our counter-proliferation strategy.
Yes, Senator.
And it's a good thing that we don't have dozens of nations thinking, I better get nukes before the people that hate me across the border get nukes.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Admiral.
Thank you, Senator Cotton. Senator Hirono, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, Admiral. Congratulations on your nomination. I want to start with 2 initial questions that I ask of every nominee to ensure their fitness to serve. So I will ask you, since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment of a sexual nature?
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
No, Senator.
So the president made what I think it was a surprise announcement while he was going to meet with President Xi. So this has to do with saying that we should resume nuclear testing. And the last time the U.S. conducted nuclear tests was in 1992. And would resumption of the kind of testing that he's talking about apparently require an EIS?
I'm not familiar with the term EIS.
Environmental impact statement.
That's not a matter of expertise for me, Senator.
Well, I think under the National Environmental Policy Act, I mean, NEPA, the resumption of nuclear testing, because of the environmental concerns, health concerns, long-term impacts of such testing, that it would require an EIS, which means that there is a comment period, et cetera, before such testing can resume. Let me ask you this then. We're told that the cost to recapitalize the nuclear triad over the next 10 years is $946 billion. That is a huge cost just to recapitalize, as I said, the nuclear triad. So given that huge cost, do you think that what we should do is resume nuclear testing, which experts have estimated would cost $125 to $150 million per test?
Senator, if confirmed in the role of the STRATCOM commander, my role would be to provide military advice, and I would look forward to working with the committee and policy members to inform the way ahead with respect to any testing, whether that's testing of our missile systems or surety associated with the nuclear weapons stockpile.
I think that is going to be really important because it appears that I don't know what thought processes the president went through and who he talked to before he made this, what I would consider a very consequential announcement, and how our adversaries, Russia and China, would regard our resumption of testing, and they may push them to do even more testing from their standpoint, because we have the stockpile stewardship program to ensure the safety and reliability of our nuclear weapons without explosive testing. And the program relies on supercomputers, simulations, non-explosive experiments, and technology. We have a lot of technology that keeps us ahead of our adversaries in terms of ensuring that our nuclear stockpile is actually reliable. So do you think that resumption of testing on our part would spur China, North Korea, Russia to do more testing from their standpoint? Could that result?
Senator, thank you for the question. I wouldn't presume to predict a response on the part of Russia or China. I look forward to supporting the president's priorities and working with this committee if confirmed.
Don't you
on the
think?
way ahead.
Excuse me, Admiral. Don't you think we should really contemplate and consider what the impact might be and what the response might be by China, Russia, North Korea, if we resume our testing? I'm not saying we shouldn't, but those are considerations that should be assessed. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree that the subject matter expertise with respect to how those countries might respond to any changes in a test regimen, but I wouldn't presume that the president's words meant nuclear testing.
Well, that's what he
think,
said.
I believe the quote was, "Start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis." Neither China or Russia has conducted a nuclear explosive test. So I'm not reading anything into it or reading anything out
Yeah,
to
so
it.
so again, that points out what
Precision
kind
is
of,
important.
excuse me, Admiral, what kind of thought processes the president went through before he made, well, I would say a consequential announcement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Hirono. Senator Rounds, you were recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Admiral, first of all, thank you for your service. Thank you to your family for their sacrifice as well as you have deployed on multiple occasions, and we appreciate your offer to continue that service. In my office, we talked about Spectrum, and I warned you that that was going to be an item that I was going to no surprise to the rest of the committee here, that I'm going to follow up on it right now. As we discussed in my office, forcing the department to vacate or share in the suboptimal manner the 3.1 to 3.45 gigahertz and the 7.4 to 8.4 gigahertz bands of the spectrum would have a very negative impact on our warfighting capabilities, including homeland defense missions, force protection for our troops overseas, and our strategic communications. How important is spectrum to U.S. nuclear deterrence?
Senator, it's vitally important. And I recall the words that Admiral Caudle used in his testimony when asked about this, speaking from the Navy and the department's perspective. And he said the impact of vacating would be, the quote was 200 billion. He said infinity, so much greater than that, and more than 100 years. But, you know, obviously embellishing, but the point being that it's a vital area of the spectrum for our military capabilities, and that includes command and control and missile defense.
Yeah, let's follow up on that just a little bit, because I agree with that. And Admiral Caudle's comments were that the cost of moving the assets, the Navy assets, out of those protected bands might as well be infinity, because the physics of the S-band are not replicable in other bands. and clearly you agree with Admiral Cottle's analysis on it, in your professional military opinion, how might forcing commercial high-power wireless providers into the department's S-band impact our early warning radars?
Senator, that would have a negative impact, and I'd be happy to, follow up with you and the committee in a classified setting to discuss the details associated with that.
I recognize that a lot of this that we're talking about is classified, but the public needs to understand, and this is the only way we can do it, is to have folks that have the ability to share it, how critical it is that we protect certain parts of the spectrum that some people would prefer to release for commercial operation. I just simply want your analysis of how serious that is.
It's incredibly serious to the point of, significantly, dramatically increasing the risk with the ability to provide assured command and control and the operation of our missile defense systems.
If confirmed,
for the nuclear mission.
If confirmed, will you let your chain of command and Congress know if you believe any interagency decisions regarding spectrum would have a negative impact on the department's warfighting capabilities and nuclear deterrence?
Yes, Senator.
It would be speaking truth to power.
Yes, Senator.
Okay. Earlier this year, General Cotton testified to this committee that he believes 145 B-21s are needed to support STRATCOM. Do you agree with this assessment?
I agree with General Cotton's assessment, and I believe he's been on the record saying between 140 and 150 B-21s, and the services position has been at least 100. So that'll be a continuing conversation.
Recognizing that some parts of our capabilities take a long time to get established, and they, in a lot of cases, go over budget. In this particular case, is it still true that the B-21 is not only on time, it is on budget as well?
The B-21 is one of the strongest performing large acquisition programs we have, and I agree. It's on time and on budget.
Thank you. Given the growing potential for a multi-theater conflict, if we get into it with China, we're going to have Russia right there as well. Or the other way around. If we get into it with Russia, we're going to have China right there as well. Given the potential for that type of a multi-theater conflict involving near-peer adversaries, what steps would you take to prepare Strategic Command to deter two nuclear peer adversaries?
Thank you for the question, Senator. And if confirmed, I would continue the emphasis on our exercise program. I wish every American citizen could see our professionals in execution, both our civilian professionals and our military professionals. But as Senator Cotton referred to, our nation's strategic deterrent is in execution and practiced every day. To that end, we conduct somewhere north or south of approximately 400 command and control exercises per year. I've personally participated in more than 100, and we will continue to do that to assure our capabilities and the ability. Job one for the STRATCOM commander is to preserve decision space for national command authority, and then together with fellow combatant commanders and the chairman, provide options should they be required.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Rounds. Senator Kane, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Admiral Correll, congratulations on your nomination. I look forward to supporting you, and I enjoyed our visit yesterday. Before I have a question or two for you, I just want to put on the record for my colleagues a deep concern about the news that broke yesterday that the Pentagon was briefing Senate Republican colleagues about actions in the Caribbean, Pacific, and potentially in Venezuela without inviting Democrats to that briefing. That, in my mind, is starting to amount to a troublesome pattern. At the beginning of the year, most of us were denied the opportunity to meet with the nominee for Secretary of Defense before his confirmation hearing. Many of us have directed inquiries to the Pentagon asking basic questions that are appropriate for the oversight role of this committee, and on the Democratic side, we don't get answers. Most recently, on the 10th of September, 25 of us directed questions to the Pentagon about basic questions regarding the strikes that have been in the news, legal authority, evidence that they were in fact narco-traffickers, who is targeted, why strike rather than interdict. We have not been given answers to those questions. The news yesterday followed recent news that Pentagon officials have been instructed not to communicate directly with members of Congress except through the Congressional Liaison Office, which has not been the case in the past. And there's also been news in recent days that military officials connected to the strikes that have been referred to are being asked to sign non-disclosure agreements. This is very, very troubling. This committee is a nonpartisan and a bipartisan committee. I've been on it now for more than 12 years. This year, when we voted the NDAA out of committee, the vote was 26-1. And that's usually what it is, virtually every year. We're not Democrats and Republicans on this committee. We support the military in a nonpartisan and bipartisan way to the best of our ability. And if we are going to provide that support in a nonpartisan and depoliticized way, we need to be respected in a nonpartisan and depoliticized way. I don't speak for anybody else on this committee other than me, but I work my tail off on this committee. This is the dominant responsibility I have as a United States Senator. I represent a state that has more military equities than most. I'm a military dad. I don't deserve to be treated like an annoyance, an obstacle, or an enemy by the Pentagon. In order to depoliticize the military, and that's what we should be doing, every member of this committee should be treated with equal respect by the Pentagon in terms of answering questions, providing information. And there shouldn't be an easy pass lane for some and an obstacle for others. And I just wanted to state that, and I hope my colleagues will support me in that going forward. I wanted to ask you this, Admiral Correll, that you've had a pretty unique set of experiences before being nominated for this position, and you know the position very well, but in particular, you've had some significant experience on the intel side of our military operation. So given your experience working with the intelligence enterprise, and especially under Title 50 authorities, how would you leverage that intel background to enhance STRATCOM's ability to integrate intelligence into strategic planning and action?
Thank you, Senator. And I very much enjoyed our office call, and I appreciate your time. I guess the way I would answer that is to say, just to emphasize the importance of the insights that the intel community provides across our government. And if confirmed as the STRATCOM commander, I would continue to pay very, very close attention to those insights. As part of my operational experience you referenced, I do have quite a bit of deep experience working with the intel community, and I think combining, the capabilities of the intel community with the military can provide much more effective and a broader range of options back to that, providing options to national command authority where the risk is increasing. And that's where I would say, be a pretty important aspect where my background is helpful as I contemplate.
One last question. I asked you about intelligence, so now I'm going to ask you about artificial intelligence. You said something as we talked the other day that AI, the way you framed it, it can generate a data advantage which leads to a decision advantage which results in a warfighting advantage. Could you briefly elaborate?
Yes, Senator. The technology, we need to be very deliberate. A human will always be in the loop, and that will be the decision maker. But the ability to manage vast quantities of data and provide decision-ready information is going to provide a significant warfighting advantage to the country that gets that most right and takes the best advantage of it.
Thank you, Senator Kane. Senator Tupperville, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Admiral. Congratulations, and thanks for the dedication of you and your family for years of service. As part of the One Big Beautiful Bill that was passed in the law this summer, $24 billion was given to the department to fund the initial phase of President Trump's ambitious and needed missile defense initiative, Golden Dome. My state of Alabama is leader in missile defense technology and will hopefully play a large part in this. While STRATCOM has no formal role in the development of this system, it will undoubtedly be affected by this new architecture. In your opinion, What capabilities does the Golden Dome system bring to your toolbox as STRATCOM?
I fully support the Golden Dome way ahead. STRATCOM is in close collaboration and partnership with General Gutlein as he leads that effort. General Cotton's responsibility as the commander of U.S. Strategic Command, where it intersects with Golden Dome, is in missile warning and threat assessment. And he shares that responsibility with the other geographic combatant commanders. So in, my role, if confirmed, in providing best military advice, I'd be working with General Guillot and Spacecom Commander and General Gutlein to inform the architecture and the way ahead with that. One of the really important aspects of that is the space sensor layer and the ability to detect and track those novel missile systems I referred to before, fractional orbital bombardment capabilities, advanced cruise or hypersonic missiles, and the hypersonic glide vehicles.
Thank you. Nuclear command, control, and communication systems, otherwise known as NC3, are essential for operations of our nuclear. Many of these systems haven't been updated in decades. In this new role, the entire NC3 enterprise belongs to you. Where does this modernization list on your priority list, and how do you plan on accomplishing this mission?
This priority is, right up there as number one priority, with transitioning from the capabilities we have to the capabilities we need going forward. That's all three legs of the triad, plus nuclear command and control. General Cotton has been laser focused on that, and I will continue that focus going forward. There is a solid roadmap for delivering capabilities over the next 3 years, and we'll continue to execute that roadmap, and would just offer to any member of the committee, be happy to provide a brief in a classified setting on the details, specific details associated with that.
Thank you. Keeping with the same topic of the NC3 system and its vulnerabilities, cyber attacks are one of the greatest threats to not only our national security sector, but to our nation. Do you believe that the NC3 is sufficiently protected from the cyber attacks from both state and non-state actors?
It's sufficiently protected, Senator, but we can't take our eye off the ball. We've got to continue to invest in capabilities and match the threat as it advances. Senator Kane referred to AI. That's one of the areas where AI can be really helpful in terms of big data and analyzing patterns of traffic flow on any particular network can give you insights into where the traffic might not be occurring as you expect it and alert an operator to take a look for follow-on action. But that sensing and monitoring of the network itself and the ability to detect sophisticated adversary on activity on that is really, really important, and we'll continue to stay focused on that.
You know, when you were in my office the other day, you mentioned how important the acquisition, reform, and strengthening the defense industrial base is to STRATCOM. Can you describe ways you can help the department reform our system for developing and procuring weapon systems while positioning our defense industry base to compete with our near-peer nuclear adversaries?
I think as, if confirmed as a STRATCOM commander, one of my most important responsibilities is to speak with precision about challenges and then unleash, the innovation that's in our economy to come back with recommended solutions. Our Deputy Secretary has talked about how we advance the ecosystem to encourage innovation and more rapid delivery of capabilities. And, I'm not an acquisition professional expert, but I fully support the initiatives that he's embarked with the department to advance that. And I would anticipate working very closely with the services so that we have a common view of the challenges in terms of, those challenges and possible innovative solutions, along with Secretary Duffy's team which is acquisition and sustainment within the department.
Thank you, Senator Tupperville. I'd remind my colleagues on this committee that we put into place the framework to get the wheels turning on what was then later named Golden Dome. So we've been supportive of that on this committee and in Congress with the NDAA before we got the term Golden Domes. So thank you, Senator Tupperville. Senator King, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Admiral, welcome to the committee. Several times you've talked about the exercises that go on at STRATCOM in terms of a potential or a hypothetical nuclear strike. I participated in 2 of those exercises, one of the most profound experiences of my life. My understanding is that no president since Ronald Reagan has participated in one of those exercises. Is that the fact?
Senator, I'll follow up with you. I believe it's since President Carter in 1977.
Okay, but still,
It's been a long time.
A lot
Yes.
of presidents since that
Senator.
time. I don't understand that, why that doesn't occur. If I were president, I wouldn't want the first time I was in that room to be real. And I hope that you might command, you use the term National Command Authority, that's the president. And I hope you might pass up the line that this is an experience the president, any president should have early on in their term. Secondly, we've been talking about this phrase the president used. We're doing Talmudic analysis here of the words. Because of other countries' testing programs, I've instructed the Department of Defense, to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. Are any other countries doing explosive testing of nuclear warheads?
Senator, one, thank you for the time in your office. I really appreciate your time and the conversation. To my knowledge, the explosive testing, the last explosive nuclear testing was by North Korea or DPRK, and that was in 2017 to be publicly confirmed.
But Russia and China have not done explosive that we know of, is that correct?
No. For China, last publicly acknowledged test was in 1996.
He then goes on, this process will begin immediately. I'm sorry, we are testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. It could be that what he's talking about is delivery systems. Is that not correct? That because they're testing, I think this isn't, just recently we learned about the new Skyfall Russian missile. Is that a reasonable interpretation of what he's saying rather than explosive testing of weapons?
I don't have insight into the president's intent. I agree that that could be an interpretation.
Well, we hope that that's clarified in coming days. NC3, there's been a lot of discussion about it. You've already talked about how important it is. I can guarantee that at this very moment, there are attacks underway on our NC3 system. My question is, not only are we defending, do you do a regular red team kind of exercise? Do we hire people to try to break into our NC3 system in order to tell us our vulnerabilities? My experience is CIOs will always tell you everything's fine, boss, until somebody shows that it isn't. Is red teaming part of the process here?
It is part of the process, and in a classified setting, I'd be happy to follow up with you. And I agree, that's a really important aspect of, challenging ourselves and making sure, we're, assume that the adversary is as capable as we are. And then are we accounting for that? That's an important aspect of understanding our vulnerabilities.
Thank you. One of the lesser known responsibilities of STRATCOM is electronic warfare. Talk to me about where we stand in terms of the responsibilities, analysis. My sense is that this is an area where we perhaps aren't where we ought to be.
Senator, my experience is the Joint Force is laser focused on electronic warfare. General Cotton, as the commander of STRATCOM, is responsible for reporting on training and understanding of the electromagnetic spectrum capabilities within the Joint Force, and then advocacy for developing electromagnetic spectrum capabilities. There's a rich body of lessons learned associated with the Russia-Ukraine conflict that is being applied within the Joint Force and needs to continue to inform the way ahead. We're not where we need to be, but we're focused on it and making progress.
One final question. The whole nuclear enterprise, as we've discussed here today, is based upon the principle of deterrence. That's the cornerstone of our entire defense strategy. It strikes me that we need to be taking account of new weapon systems. For example, a missile, a warhead that could be in space over Washington, which makes the time, instead of 26 or 30 minutes, about 5 minutes. Is that part of the strategic analysis? That could change our calculus, it seems to me, in some fundamental ways.
That is part of the strategic analysis and part of the requirements associated with our assured command and control for our strategic systems. And the three legs of the triad are complementary and collectively contribute to the overall deterrent effect. And one of the really, really important aspects of that is assured capability to respond. And that has not been put at risk.
I'm out of time. I appreciate your answers. I think for the record, we'll talk further about Sentinel and where that stands. Thank you very much, Admiral.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator King. Senator Sheehy, you are recognized.
Thanks, Senator King. Those were great questions. I think they were right on target. How old is the design for the Minuteman III missile system?
The Minuteman III was initially fielded in the 1960s.
Okay, so probably older than both of us and most people here, I think. So
maybe not me, Senator.
Well, you look young, so how often do we test new airplanes?
All new airplanes undergo a rigorous testing program before they're certified for flight operations.
And how often are we testing our submarines and our spacecraft?
In essence, we operate them every day. If you think about that as reinforcing their capabilities.
And after we put a plane or a submarine through a relatively routine maintenance period, do we conduct sea trials and tests on that vessel or aircraft afterwards?
Absolutely.
So essentially, we're constantly testing our aircraft and our submarines and our rockets and our space infrastructure. Would that be accurate?
I would agree with that characterization.
And when was the last time we conducted a full-scale test of our nuclear capability?
We have a rigorous testing program with our nuclear capabilities, and that occurs by, with, and through the services. And every leg of the triad is tested rigorously, and I have absolute confidence in that those systems will perform if we ever need them to perform.
But when was the last time we tested a nuclear weapon?
An actual nuclear weapon? I'd have to take that as a lookup and get back to you. But we haven't tested one since we ratified, at least since we ratified the Limited Test Ban Treaty in 1963.
Which is a good thing. I'm glad we ratified that treaty, and I agree with it. But we essentially test every other system we have constantly in a full-scale test environment. And models are great. Software systems are fantastic. But at the end of the day, as you well know as a submariner, King Neptune is a very unforgiving lord. And things go wrong at the bottom of the ocean. Things go wrong at the edge of space, in the air. And models always tell us things will go great. And experts tell us opinions. Unfortunately, sometimes physics tells us otherwise. So I think much ado is being made about the president's comments yesterday, which simply are saying a lot of other countries are conducting nuclear tests of various kinds, whether they be delivery vehicle tests, aircraft tests, or full-scale explosions. And on an equal basis, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That doesn't mean we're going to start blowing up nukes outside of Las Vegas every other day. It doesn't mean we're going to be dropping nukes over Fiji. It means we're going to be testing on an equal basis. And I don't think that's at all an unreasonable position to take, for the commander-in-chief of the largest military in the world that's operating 60-year-old missile systems in my state against an adversary that is innovating hypersonic glide vehicles, very maneuverable drones, perhaps even orbiting nukes that we hopefully don't think they're there, but they very well may be, that are going to absolutely test the very fabric of our nuclear infrastructure. So I understand the concerns of we don't want to provoke a nuclear war, but we also have trusted in everybody else in the world that they're going to abide by a treaty that we signed 60 years ago. And I think as we've seen with other people we've signed treaties for, they oftentimes don't abide by them. And they are focused on undermining us every way we can. So I think testing every component of our nuclear triad, which we do to a certain extent, but ensuring we're testing on an equal basis is an extremely reasonable ask of our military. And I think it's the least we can do. So spectrum is going to be the trenches of the 21st century battlefield. Space is the ultimate high ground. We've had a few discussions about spectrum here, but what is going to be your strategy as commander here to ensure that we have spectrum dominance both domestically and on any battlefield in the 21st century?
We've got to continue along all efforts to advance our spectrum capabilities. That includes world-class test ranges, modeling and simulation, and testing ourselves against, the most exquisite capabilities that are out there, and that's where the Joint Force is headed. With respect to your comments on testing, I agree with how you framed that and the sentiment that you expressed. If confirmed as the STRATCOM commander, I, would continue to look to support, the president's directives and work with this committee in a very transparent way on the way ahead.
Thank you, Senator Sheehy. Senator Kelly, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Admiral, great to see you again. Enjoyed our talk in my office yesterday. The strategic environment is evolving rather rapidly, and we're seeing some novel missile systems, such as hypersonic glide vehicles, re-entry vehicles that can maneuver, obviously at hypersonic and other speeds, these systems will drastically compress decision timelines and challenge some of the traditional early warning systems that we currently have in place. It'll also challenge the ability to track and intercept. So these technologies are altering not just how quickly a strike could unfold, but how we think about deterrence and how we think about escalation control in a crisis. So, Admiral, how do you assess the future of these novel missile threats? And if confirmed, how would you posture U.S. Strategic Command to adapt and deter in an environment where speed, maneuverability, and ambiguity increasingly defined strategic competition?
Thanks, Senator. I really enjoyed our time and our discussion as well. I guess the way I would answer that is, we're safe, secure, effective, and credible today. But as you highlight, the security environment is advancing, and those novel missile systems represent a threat that we have to account for. I mentioned previously that one of the ways I think about it is make the targeting problem too hard. So there are operational approaches and tactics, techniques, and procedures that we can use with existing capabilities to maximize our effectiveness in that environment. Ultimately, we need to advance our space-based sensor capability and other sensing capabilities to detect and track those systems. But today, as it stands today, I have absolute confidence in our ability to survive any kind of preemptive attack from those systems and be ready to provide the president with options for response, working together with fellow combatant commanders and the chairman from conventional up to strategic.
How well postured are we, without sharing anything that could be classified, to handle a ICBM over the South Pole, with a hypersonic glide vehicle? Detection. I mean, at this point, we're talking about not the ability to intercept it, just to detect it.
Yes, Senator. I would be happy to follow up in a classified setting.
Okay.
Senator, thank you for the question.
All right, and also I want to touch briefly on electronic warfare and the electromagnetic spectrum. We talked a little bit about that in my office. So we're seeing Ukraine, how both sides are employing jamming, spoofing, signal denial to disrupt communications, precision targeting, and command and control, often in real time. So given that reality, what lessons should we draw from Ukraine about fighting and surviving in a degraded or denied electromagnetic environment? And more specifically, if confirmed, how do you see the future of electronic warfare and counter-electronic warfare evolving under your command at U.S. Strategic Command? So how do you take what we're seeing in Ukraine? Our adversaries could apply some of those techniques to strategic forces, and what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that it's an incredibly rich learning environment for what we've seen, and the pace of the agility needed, the move and counter move with respect to contesting the electromagnetic spectrum is occurring on, almost a daily basis during that conflict. And it really challenges the ability to take and hold territory. And so that's part of the conversation going on within the joint force is, what capabilities for the future and what operational concepts are going to be successful in that kind of environment.
All right. Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. Senator Kramer, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Admiral, for your service, to you and your wife for your service, and your willingness to continue it. We need you badly. Like everyone else, I appreciated it very much and enjoyed our discussion yesterday in my office. Since we've been talking about old missiles, I want to, and new ones, and we're excited for the new ones for sure in North Dakota and at Minot. But as you know, Minot is also the last of the bases to receive, to receive the Sentinel. As we transition from Minuteman III to Sentinel, what steps are being made to ensure that there's no gap, that we have continuous alert coverage, that personnel readiness, all of that, while Sentinel is being constructed?
Thank you, Senator. And I too enjoyed our conversation and appreciated your time. If confirmed as a STRATCOM commander, one of my most important responsibilities that I see with respect to the transition from what we have to what we need in the future is understanding where the risks are within the portfolio and where additional risks might manifest themselves, and communicating that with precision together with the services to make sure that we're accounting for it. That's as we transition. The other factor associated with that is the strategic environment. And as the strategic environment evolves, any kind of adjustments to our strategic posture that would be required to provide advice with respect to that. And so understanding the margin in the system of what we have and where the risks might come from, and then making sure that we account for it across the entire triad of capabilities, and would be happy to follow up in a classified setting with details associated with that. But I'm comfortable with where we are. We need to continue to keep the pressure on to pull new capabilities to the left and deliver sooner. But the services are very focused on understanding where the margin is and how our systems are operating, and STRATCOM is as well.
Well, along the same lines, would it be acceptable in your mind, any situation, to reduce the nation's ICBM count below 400? Because there's a lot of talk about that, and what would be the downside and what are the benefits of all 400?
Based on the strategic environment, I would, my military advice would be not to reduce the numbers, and in a classified setting, be happy to have that conversation. It really comes back to this complementary nature. The whole is much greater than the sum of the parts, and each leg of the triad has unique attributes that are really important. With respect to our Minuteman III system, its availability since the 1960s, 24/7, 365, ability to retarget and hold at risk, what's required, again, for that operational flexibility and providing the max range of options to the president is really, really important together with the other legs of the triad.
Well, not to be outdone by the age of missiles, we have some really old airplanes too at Minot. As you know, we have 2 of the 3 legs of the nuclear triad. The B-52s have been around longer than you and Senator Sheehy as well. And the B-52s are due for modernization as well in the engines, as you know. We appreciate the new helicopters that are coming to replace the very old Hueys as well. Obviously, modernization is important in Minot. But you talked a little earlier with Senator Rounds about B-21s. We talked a little bit about the number up above 100. It's becoming pretty common speak, obviously. But maybe you could speak a little bit to the B-52, whether we get to replace them someday with B-21s. It's not on the docket now, or the importance of that machine as, again, through this transition of modernization.
Thank you, Senator, and I absolutely agree with your point with respect to the B-2 and its essential nature to our strategic deterrent. And in a classified setting, I could get into details. That modernization is really important. The new engines associated with that are ongoing for that are world-class, coming from Rolls-Royce. Essentially, it's an old airplane, but it's a new airplane because every piece internal to that aircraft has been replaced over time, and that's part of that modernization for the avionics and those engines. And there's some incredible technology being applied by Rolls-Royce in terms of data for those engines that are going to that is almost certainly going to improve the readiness rate of those aircraft going forward.
Appreciate that. I would just add, I mean, one of the things that encourages me about the B-21 is it does seem to have a frame that's durable, and that has multiple opportunities. I'm a little tired of building one airplane that can only do one thing and then have to build another one to do the next thing. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thank you, Admiral.
Thank you, Senator Kramer. Senator Rosen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Senator Fisher, Senator Reed, for holding this hearing. Admiral Correll, your wife's here today, and to your family, thank you for your service to our nation and for your willingness to continue that service. So I want to talk a little bit about nuclear testing in Nevada. As everyone knows, the Nevada Test Site, now known as the Nevada National Security Site, NNSS, was ground zero for the majority of the United States explosive nuclear testing from 1951 to 1992. During this era, which we must not return to, millions of people and acres of land were contaminated by radiation. And my state of Nevada is still suffering the consequences. Since President George H.W. Bush signed the testing moratorium in 1992, the Nevada National Security Site has safely conducted non-explosive experiments to certify the reliability, the safety, the effectiveness of our nuclear stockpile. So let me be clear. What we are doing in Nevada is working. For decades, the directors of our national laboratories, the commander of U.S. Strategic Command, the secretaries of Defense and Energy, including through the entire time of the first Trump administration, and again this year, have certified the military effectiveness of our stockpile. Nonetheless, President Trump last night took the reckless, irresponsible, and dangerous step to declare that we will resume explosive nuclear testing, despite no evidence supporting the need to do so. If this resumption happens, the amount of radiation exposure and destruction would be felt across the country and around the world. Make no mistake, this would be devastating and catastrophic. So I'm going to be crystal clear. I will not let this happen, not on my watch. I will do everything I can in my power as a senator as a United States citizen to put a stop to this and protect families in my state of Nevada. So, Admiral Correll, can you clarify what you told the committee earlier this morning and clearly tell us, in your expert opinion, are explosive nuclear tests necessary, yes or no?
Senator, I'd be happy to schedule a follow-on briefing in a classified setting to have a discussion about testing. The STRATCOM commander's role, and if confirmed, my role would be to provide the requirements for the accuracy.
Do you think then we're
confidence
not meeting our? You do not feel confident with the tests that our national labs and what we're doing at the test site, that the tests that we've been doing since 1992, when we stopped that above and below ground nuclear testing, have not been adequate enough to ensure the integrity of our nuclear arsenal?
The adequacy and efficacy of the nuclear weapons stockpile is certified on an annual basis.
And do you trust in those tests?
And it was certified satisfactorily, and I do trust that assessment.
And so would you
subject matter
counsel
experts.
the President on national security implications? And let me tell you that we like to say in Nevada, what happens in Las Vegas stays in Vegas. But if you start those explosive nuclear tests, I can tell you this: every bit of air, every bit of groundwater, every bit of soil across these United States will be contaminated with radiation, and everyone in this country will suffer, not just the people of Nevada. So how would you counsel the President on this issue of resuming explosive nuclear tests?
Senator, I would provide my best military advice in a private setting and classified setting.
So I know you're not there yet, and you've had a career working in all of this, worked very hard and have so much knowledge. I look forward to really working with you and working to move all of these issues forward. I just want to be sure that you agree with data-informed assessments and that there really isn't a technical or strategic justification for resuming what might be a great photo op of a mushroom cloud over the western United States.
Senator, I have always been driven by data and, to the best of my ability, provide forthright and candid advice, and I commit that will not change going forward. And thank you for the question.
Thank you. I look forward to setting up that meeting in the SCIF to discuss this further. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. Senator Warren, you were recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I want to say thank you to Senator Rosen. I want to follow up, but it's clear you're not going to answer much here in an open setting. But I'd like to join you when the meeting goes to the SCIF to understand the seriousness of this moment and what it means for our nation. Last night, the President may have launched us on a path of a new arms race when he announced that we should base our testing of nuclear weapons on what other countries, including states like North Korea, do to terrorize the world. At the same time, the Trump administration is cracking down on independent oversight and reporting at the Pentagon. This should be a flashing red light for this committee and for our constitutional oversight duties. This is billions, even trillions of taxpayer dollars that we're talking about, and the safety and security of the people and the land of the United States itself. We need independent assessments for what's happening here, and we need someone who's going to be candid with us about both their assessment and the facts about what's going on. So if I can, I'm going to ask some other questions that I think we can answer appropriately in this setting. I want to say congratulations on your nomination. As the commander of the U.S. Strategic Command, it's going to be your job to manage our current and future nuclear arsenal. The Congressional Budget Office estimates our plans to build new nuclear weapons will cost $946 billion just over the next 10 years. That's almost $1 trillion, and that's just an estimate. Systems like Sentinel, the land-based nuclear missile program, have turned out to cost almost double their original estimates given to Congress. And that doesn't just cost taxpayers, it jeopardizes our national security. Ballooning costs have forced the Air Force to consider postponing and scaling back its next-generation tanker, airlifter, and next-generation air dominance fighter programs. The military services are responsible for acquisition programs, but as the STRATCOM commander and member of the Nuclear Weapons Council, you're responsible for overseeing the nuclear weapons program, and your military advice here is going to be very influential. Vice Admiral Correll, would you agree that it is important for military planning to have an accurate estimate of how much a new nuclear weapon will cost and when it will be delivered?
Yes, Senator.
You agree. We need those basic facts. Look, we need to know how much things cost, but the Air Force provided Congress with a rosy cost estimate for Sentinel, which turned out to cost an extra $60 billion over their estimate. And they did this while declaring, quote, there was no more margin to extend Minuteman III, the program that Sentinel is replacing, past 2036. Well, turns out that wasn't true either. As the Government Accountability Office revealed last month, the military believes we can extend Minuteman III through 2050. So here we have it, this crucial program. The dollar figure was wrong and the time was wrong on it. We need to take an honest look at these programs and not shield them from independent oversight. Vice Admiral Correll, do you commit to ensuring that STRATCOM will not stand in the way of any independent studies or independent recommendations on Sentinel or any other program moving forward?
Senator, I commit to providing my best military advice in a candid and forthright manner to within the department and to this committee.
I appreciate that. It is sorely needed. Think tanks influential with the administration want to add to the Sentinel program by making it mobile. They claim it's going to save money, but history and other analysts indicate it is much more likely it will increase cost and complexity. And what would we get for wasting billions of dollars more? Nuclear weapons being driven through American cities and towns. Vice Admiral Correll, if you were told to consider a mobile Sentinel option again and your military analysis showed that it would add cost or complexity, will you commit to sharing those results as part of your military advice with Congress?
I would commit to that, and that would be by, with, and through the department.
Okay, I appreciate that. It is more critical now than ever before that we have military leaders who are willing to be honest with Congress about our national security. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Slotkin.
Thank you, Senator. Welcome, congratulations on the nomination to you and your family. And you're getting a little preview of how dicey your job is going to be with the president's announcement like 18 hours before you came up here. So I can imagine your poor staff, their briefs changed from last night to today. You know, I think anyone who's coming up here to take an important position like the head of STRATCOM in charge of 41,000 people, it's an extremely big deal. Out of a military of 1.3 million people, we only have 38 four-star generals. I think it's a very rare thing to be a four-star in the U.S. military. And it's hard to notice that we are losing 4 stars, 3 stars, and even 2 stars in a pretty unusual way over the last 9 months. Just in those months, we have lost the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, Chief of Naval Operations, Commander of Cybercom and Director of NSA, Commander of Southcom, Commandant of the Coast Guard, the SMA to the SecDef, the Director of DIA, Naval Special Warfare Commander, the top Army lawyer, the top Air Force lawyer, representative to NATO, the Joint Staff Director for J5, the Joint Staff J3, and the Chief of Naval Research. By my count, that is 17 GOFOs, general officers, who have been removed from their positions or retired early in 9 months. I'm a former CIA officer, so we used to look at other foreign militaries and make assessments on them. If I saw 17 general officers removed from their positions in a foreign military, we would call that a purge. That's the technical definition when a new leader comes in and just cleans house. The places where we've looked at these kinds of things are places like China, right, where they remove large numbers of officers at one time. I used to work on Iraq. They would do the same thing. It is very clear that the Secretary of Defense is trying to reshape the department in ways that are very different than previous administrations, and he is critical of anyone who takes issue with him, his leadership, or decision-making of him or the president. Now, you've repeated many times, rightly, that your job will be to give best military advice, but what we are seeing over and over in black and white is that when people in similar positions give their best military advice, they get removed. If that military advice is somehow not in line with the thinking of this president and the secretary, you get fired. So there's going to come a moment. I don't know when it's going to be. I hope you never have it, but there will be a moment behind closed doors, not when the lights are on and the hearings going on, when you will have that really existential decision you will have to make. Do I give my best military advice and tell people news they don't want to hear, information they don't want to hear, or will I just go along to get along to make sure that my bosses are happy and I don't rock the boat? You swore an oath over and over your whole career to the Constitution, not to any one man, not to one president, but to the Constitution of the United States. So can you say with conviction, when your moment comes, because it's coming, you're behind closed doors and you have that moral and professional obligation to make, that you, at risk, knowing that your job is at risk, you will say the right and best military advice based on facts and not just what Secretary Hegseth wants you to say?
Senator, over the course of my career, I've adhered to that principle, and I will adhere to that principle going forward, consistent with my oath to the Constitution.
Well, we are counting on it, and we've had every single nominee come up and say the same thing. I've asked this question to pretty much every single nominee that's come up before me. But those moments are happening, and I think we can see just by the sheer number, 17 general officers removed in 9 months, that you will have that career-defining moment. And because your job involves nuclear weapons, there couldn't be a more important set of issues to work on when it comes to sort of moral decision-making. We are counting on you. The young folks who work for you, those 41,000 people, are counting on you to make the right decision when the doors are closed. So thank you, and I encourage you all of Godspeed.
Thank you, Senator Slotkin. Admiral, seeing no other of my colleagues here, I thank you for being here today. I thank you for responding to the questions as they were presented to you. And with that, I declare the hearing closed.
Well done.